here's the thing. When it comes to manifestation, and quantum manifestation is now like this hot topic that you'll see probably everywhere over YouTube. So quantum manifestation is essentially looking at co-creation and manifestation through the lens of quantum physics. And it's important because quantum physics is ultimately, right, like the new science, and it's helped us to discover that our reality, right, what we perceive as our physical reality and what is ultimately real is just vibrational energy vibrating at different frequencies. And that in light, right, like light, energy, same thing, consciousness, same thing. But light and energy from a quantum physics point of view, behaves in a very peculiar way, very strange way, in that it is both a particle and a wave function simultaneously. And what does that mean practically? Well, a wave function is the infinite potentialities and possibilities that are available to all of us, right? It is the energy, like, so if you think about a fridge and a microwave in your home and an air fryer and your, all the things, all your appliances, the electricity, right, that fuels and that allows those things to work is always there. It's, those things don't function without the electricity, without the source. And so for me, I call it your soul state, right? When you tune in, tap in, and turn on your soul state, you're ultimately plugging into the infinite supply of energy that is informing and animating everything in all of us. And then we've got the particle, which is when those infinite waves, right, have an observer like you or I, and there is attention that is put on that infinite wave of infinite potential, and that wave is collapsed because the observer, right, it only collapses into one of those possibilities when there is an observer. So that's why we are co-creating, because there's infinite potentiality and possibilities to bring into form, which is the particle part of the light and energy. So it's a constant game of tapping into the infinite potentialities and the possibilities that exist, and the wave function of what is ultimately the energy that is animating and informing and allowing everything to exist and to be, even though it's seemingly separate and physical. And then we bring that energy, right, from infinite possibility and potentiality into form, into some physicality. And so really, from a quantum manifestation point of view, and from just like an actuality point of view, what is really and truly happening, whether people are conscious or not, of manifesting and co-creating their reality, is that, Roxy, come out of the bush, baby. What is really happening is that we are accessing energy, and we have to learn how to master what I call energy intelligence. And my tagline in my business, that's why it's access the energetics, because when you can access the energetics, because everything is ultimately energy, your words, your thoughts, your emotions, your, the seemingly physical body that you have, the things that you encounter and bump up against, like the chair that you're sitting on, the screen that you're watching this through, right? Like that's the fucking like twisted part of this whole thing, is that it seems, right, like everything is separate and there's physicality and like energy schmenergy, and like why would we even focus on energy when everything is physical around us? And so, but think about it, like even think about when you're trying to change your mindset, or you're trying to have more emotional intelligence. Like, yes, those were the things that got us to where we are now, but ultimately all of those things are energy. And when you start to build your reps and your muscles around understanding and being able to, what I call, access the energetics, access the energy that is informing your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, the words that you use, everything, you can quickly, rapidly, consistently change your external reality and your external environment that is resulting from all of the energy that is ultimately animating and forming that. Please hold. So when you are trying to manifest anything in your life, and in actuality, we are all manifesting, whether we think, whether people identify as a manifestor or not. The actuality, not reality, the actuality is that we are all co-creating our realities. And the majority of people just have never been taught or learned how to do that, right? It's usually comes as a sort of an after endeavor where we you're not taught it in school, you're not taught it in college or varsity, you're not taught it by your parents, by your mentors, by your teachers, by your friends, etc. It's something that you initially embark on of your own accord and on your own efforts, and it's like you're trying to piece all these things together, right? So yes, the usual suspects are any sort of combination of the following. So most people, they set their goals, right? Their SMART goals or their big, hairy, audacious goals, and then they visualize it, and then they set affirmations, and they say them morning, noon, and night, and they, write little post-its and stick them all over the place, and then carve out time to meditate and visualize it in great detail and do the Neville Goddard, like feel the wish fulfilled and feel it as though you already have it. And then maybe you feel like you've even progressed to like the identity shifting, right? And the whole concept of like, like you have to be the version of you that has the thing that you actually want. And it's still not working, right? Your manifestations, your intentions, whatever you are trying to create in your reality is not showing up with ease and speed and consistency. Maybe sometimes it works, maybe sometimes it doesn't. And so you are then trying to do more things, right? And you're trying to problem solve for, okay, like, did I not do enough affirmations? Did you not do enough of visualization? Did you not sit in your meditation for long enough? Like, and you try to stay high vibe for 24/7, and it's like, fuck, my vibe isn't high. Like, how do I get my vibration higher? And all the things. Okay, so whilst I totally appreciate and can understand how seemingly impractical and like intangible it all is, right? It's not even seemingly intangible, it is very intangible. And it's like, if you've ever studied any of the Eastern philosophies and traditions, like it's very much like the Tao. Like as soon as you start to, try and explain the Tao or try and name the Tao or try and talk about it, you've lost it, like you've lost the plot. So I totally get that, like this whole endeavor is, pretty tough for all of us to reconcile and to understand how to like work with it. That's because, and that's probably why, like, it's been such a so-called mystery. But quantum physics has made like huge strides in all of this, and so has like humanity and our collective consciousness in general, in terms of how we are understanding and working with consciousness and awareness, etc. So the first thing is to recognize that, okay, well, when you're accessing the energetics, like what does that actually mean? Like what are you really accessing? So obviously you've got to become more conscious of your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your words, the words that you're using, not just like in conversation with people, but like the words that you're using to narrate your own internal stories, and about your past, about your present, about your future, etc., because those words carry energy. And this is why, like, I get so pedantic about the words that we use, and I look at the etymology, meaning like the history of words and the energy that they carry. So for example, goal setting, like I'm not a fan of goal setting, because if you think about goal setting, I have a whole nother video that you can go watch explaining this in greater detail. But essentially goals, like if you aim and shoot for a goal, you don't get any points, you don't get any acknowledgement if you miss. Whereas if you aim for a target and the bullseye of a target and you miss the bullseye, you still get points, you still get feedback, instant feedback about like, okay, next aim and shoot, I'm gonna aim a little bit more to the left or to the right or up or down or whatever. And even manifestation, like I'll put it up here because I can't remember off the top of my head the exact thing, but it ultimately, the essence of the vibration, the essence of the energy of the word, from an etymology point of view, you just go on to like an etymology dictionary and type up words. It's a fascinating endeavor. And it's helpful to understand, like, okay, and the etymology of goals, I forgot to say this, is barrier, obstacle, limitation. So like you're setting barriers and limitations and obstacles for yourself to aim for, which is like so not fun. So and then people set smart goals, like smart obstacles, and then big, hairy, audacious obstacles. Like it's so funny when the humor when you like when you start to work with energy and the universe and God and like whatever you believe, and I'm not talking about God from an anthropomorphic religion, point of view, because that is essentially what has, got us all in fucking conflict and divisiveness and wars and shit. So like any man-made religion is like, no, source energy transcends. Soul state transcends. Like a soul does not have a religion, a race, a sex, or whatever, blah blah blah, right? A soul is just a soul, and it's ultimately our infinite expression of infinite source energy. And even like an atheist is another identity that is like essentially man-made, saying like, okay, well, I don't buy into any of these anthropomorphic religions, and which is fair enough, especially when like you recognize and realize that there's no one better or right or worse than another. They've all just essentially been interpretations of man-made things. So but there is a creator, a source of whatever. Like there's no batteries in terms of how we as human beings function, right? So there's something that's animating us, that's informing us, that's inspiring us, and that allows every single thing, not just humans, like this whole fucking planet, this whole universe, this whole experience that we call life to exist. So like to think that there's not something right? Like not some power, not some like force behind that is like just naive and silly, for example, actually. But to think that like my religion is better than your religion and we are like, no, that's even like, that's just destructive actually. So getting back to the etymology, like to manifest actually means to discover, to disclose, to like see, to take action, to see, to discover and to see the unseen. And also there's something about betraying, which I was like really surprised by. But if you think about like why your manifestations aren't always working, it's usually because you are betraying yourself. You are not in alignment with whatever it is that you are with your soul, what I call your soul state. You are not allowing the energy to just flow through you with ease, because you are essentially buying into the lies, right? And the subconscious and unconscious programming that you believe is true about you, about the world, about the universe, like whatever it is. And that's why it's so important to be able to, what I call, access the energetics and start to uncover, right? To discover, to see what the unseen is, the unconscious and the subconscious, and bring more light and awareness and consciousness to it so that you can change it and update that programming, that source code. Because from a soul state point of view, like everything is whole and fine and healed and abundant and like, flowing. So for example, like if you like just let's say, for ease, like your end state is like to drink beautiful, abundant, cold, clean water, then there is a source of abundance of cold, clean water. And now your hose pipe, right, the mechanism, which is ultimately your mind state and all the words and all the energetics that are now, even the physicality, the forms that you are trying to get that through. Maybe like you're trying to say, well, I'm only going to drink water through this particular vehicle and this particular thing. So now you are creating like kinks and knots and obstacles for that source energy that exists to flow through and to just come to you with ease. And that's why like flow state is an aim and a target for most people, because like we are trying to eliminate, but like how do you access flow state, right? Like, well, you have to eliminate all the obstacles, the limitations that are in the way, and predominantly the majority of them are unconscious and subconscious, and we are energetic in nature, and you have to get to the root of those in order for you to actually be able to change them. Please hold. Scene change. Now it's about, okay, so how do you raise your awareness? How do you raise your consciousness? It's not when you try and raise your vibration. Really what we are ultimately aiming for is to raise our awareness and our consciousness and to shine more light on the unconscious, the subconscious, because that is what's ultimately continuing to run in the background. So when you can start to really either on your own, right? Because it's absolutely something, a capacity, a capability that we all have access to, right? It's an equal opportunity here. It doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is, what your race, skin, gender, blah 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 blah, all religion, etc. We are all at our essence made of the same stuff, right? Same energy. And so we all have that divine right within us to access our soul state and the source frequency or the source energy that is ultimately informing our lives. And we all have the capacity to start to reflect. That it's one of the like core distinguishing features of being a human being, is that we have the ability to reflect on how we are showing up in the world and what is ultimately what programming or what filters we are looking through that is causing us to feel the way we feel, to think the way we think, to experience what we are experiencing on the outside. So you just have to start doing that, right? Doing more of that. It's not necessarily doing affirmations and visualization, because if you keep doing all the things, right, but you haven't actually sorted out, cleaned up the energetics of what you are operating from, the words that you're using, the programming that you injected and took on as a baby, as even before you were born, like even in utero, that you are still picking up, right? Receiving, you are a little transmitter of energy. You're picking up the energy from your surroundings and the environment that your mom is experiencing and your parents were involved in. So, and then your heritage and your ancestry and your DNA, like all of it is ultimately just energy. So we have a new job as manifestors, and that job is to become what I call more energy intelligent, right? There's a new type of quotient, and it's not about being more positive. It's not about, being more only aware of your emotions. Emotions are just one component of this big piece, one piece of this big puzzle. And so our job is to become more conscious co-creators, conscious manifestors. and to be able to more masterfully and gracefully and readily and openly and willingly access the energetics and start to understand, okay, well, what is, because energetics are the things that you are already functioning from. Like, it's not some fucking mysterious thing that you're like, well, what's that? It's the energy is just it's everything that you are. It's your thoughts, it's your feelings, it's the actions, right? Remember, there's no batteries in terms of like how we are operating as a human being. So you have to just start to become more attuned, right? Again, it's energy. Like, if you are tuning into a specific radio station, tuning into a certain frequency, you're going to hear certain songs that you are expecting. If there's a different frequency that you tune into, you are going to receive different content, right? Different things in your ultimate reality. And so it's no different to when we look at our external resulting environment and reality, and we're like, okay, what have we tuned into? What frequency are we plugged into that we can either unplug from, or we can amplify, we can turn it up if we like what we see. So either you are being inhibited, or you are receiving what it is that you would like. You need to optimize it. And so there are absolutely duplicatable, replicatable frameworks and ways that we can access the energetics with profiles and assessments and different things, different vehicles, like systemic family constellation and human design, and understanding like how you were literally built to send and receive energy in this world, from a thinking point of view, from a whole brain thinking point of view, from a human design point of view. Some people just go about their lives and they don't even realize or think of the fact that they're manifesting or co-creating their reality, and they do either just fine or they don't, and they suffer and they don't even realize what's actually going on. You watching this video, I can guarantee, are way more conscious than you may even potentially give yourself credit for, way more aware of the energetics that are fueling you and animating you and resulting in your environment. And now it's just about fine-tuning that, and it's about accessing it in a very measured way. And so either you can do it, you can fast track it and access some of the frameworks and the duplicatable, replicatable frameworks that it can help us to measure what matters, right? And to measure the intangible energetic factors. And so we have to bring balance to your system. So for example, with whole brain thinking, right? It's about not just using the left hemisphere of your brain or the right hemisphere of the brain, because they have very different functionalities, and recognizing whole brain thinking is actually going to get you into that more flow state where you are more empathetic, you are more innovative, creative, you're more open to understanding how to navigate challenging situations, etc. Systemic family constellation, for example, helps us to access the energetic field of your system, of your family, of your ancestors, and to know what has been passed down consciously or unconsciously that is really inhibiting you, blocking you, preventing you from moving forward, because these are the unsaid, unseen, unspoken things, right? Traumas, little traumas and big traumas that we, again, like if we're not conscious that we took a vow to take on someone else's guilt or burden, like now as an adult, you might have an income ceiling or not, you might not be able to break through and, become financially independent because you are unconsciously staying loyal to one of your parents who, you don't want to see suffer at that particular time. And so it's like, it's all hypothetical until we actually access the energetics and measure what actually is going on and change it at the source. So let's do a little summary, right? Everything's energy, everything's interconnected. You are manifesting whether you think you are or not. Whether the things that you want or not are showing up, you are still manifesting. We are co-creating our realities, our eventual environments and ultimate external realities that we are experiencing. So the way to change what you want in your environment, in your current environment, because it's old energy, our current environments and realities that we are experiencing right now is old energy that has been where we have placed our attention on, or that is unconsciously, right, in the background programming and is coagulating and coalescing and essentially collapsing from a quantum physics point of view. Those infinite potentialities and possibilities that we talked about in the very beginning of this video are now collapsing into form and into physicality. So you've got to access the energetics and start to, because that is the highest, what I call leverage points of change. I often talk about leverage points of change. Your environment, right, your current environment is one of the lowest leverage points of change. You can't just change your current environment. There's no leverage for you to do that because it is the old energy. It's resulted. It's already resulted. It's already manifested. It's already collapsed into physicality. So now we've got to go to the highest leverage point, which is ultimately your soul state, where you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on to source code, right? And you have to go and do some digging and do some identifying of what is there and discover it and take actions of discovering what is unseen. So it's a journey, my friend. It is a proper journey of of mastery, self-mastery, and becoming a more conscious creator and learning what I call energy intelligence and being able to access the energetics and the higher leverage points of change. So, I've been doing this for my entire lifetime, 40 odd years. Like, I had a near-death experience when I was 10 years old, and I came back knowing, being, receiving, and perceiving that everything was ultimately energy and interconnected. And at 10 years old, it's like, what the fuck do you do with that? So, I knew that then, but I didn't know the consequences. I didn't know how to work with it. I didn't know how to access that energy again. And that's why, my lifelong quest and journey has been to really study all these things, from the micro to the macro, and from the most woo of woo to the neuroscience and the physics behind it. And so I know what works. I know what doesn't work. I used to fucking repeat my affirmations until I was blue in the face. I used to sit there and visualize and do vision boards and the whole thing. And not to say that you have to throw any of that out. And love me some Abraham Hicks and Esther and Neville and all the usual suspects. But there is a greater red thread, right, that is informing all of that. And those are parts and pieces of a huge puzzle. And when you can start to put that puzzle together yourself quicker, right, when you know what the big picture is, when you know what the puzzle and how all of the components operate and where they fit and how it all works together, it just makes the whole process easy. That's what's enabled me to literally manifest and receive millions of dollars, change countries, go from, corporate career, executive position to entrepreneur and multiple times, to just going from, lots of different relationships to finally being okay, that's fun and ooh, yay. But now I really want a partner that is stable and consistent and is really going to be a partnership, with me. And then boom, manifested my now husband of almost 17 years. Disease, illness, vitality, wellness. So at 16 years old, contracted Lyme disease, I can go into a whole nother video about that. And healed it, consciously healed myself from that. And people are it's a debilitating disease. And so there's countless stories for myself, my clients that, where when you become more conscious and you own the role of being a conscious creator, and you start to learn the mechanics and learn what works and what doesn't, and how to piece it all together, I promise you, life becomes fun and exciting, because it's okay, cool, there's no such thing as failure. You're not failing at your life. You're not failing in your reality. That is all feedback, right? Remember the targets, you aim for a bullseye, you aim for the job that you want or the relationship that you want. If you miss the bullseye the first time, you're getting feedback about okay, where do I need to go clean up my energy? Where do I need to go and change the story, change the narrative, own my past, heal and it's not even about becoming a different person. It's actually about dissolving and getting out the way all of the old energy, all the old programming that wasn't yours to begin with, that is in the way, that's hindering, obstacles, etc., that is preventing your energy just from flowing cleanly and beautifully into form. So if that interests you in any way, shape, or form, keep watching. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the notification bell to dive deeper with me. If you want to work with me one-on-one, there's lots of different options in the description. You can also do one of my self-paced courses, Aligned Living, which was actually a live group coaching process that included the online modules, and then those got all of the sessions and the coaching and the questions, all of that got recorded and bundled up for you, so you can go through that self-paced in a more economical way if that suits you. So thanks so much for being here. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Happy manifesting.